Are you ready? Let's just get into it. Come on. Or I'm tired of this, guys. We have a freaking dilemma on our hands. AP Gains. First off, this guy pranks me, calls me a punk on live stream, makes me lose a pretty good run with freaking Wampa, and now as punishment, I'm making him come on my stream today because we're answering this question that literally I keep getting. I have myself. What the hell are we doing, AP Gains? What are we doing right now in Star Wars Galaxies? We have what's called, in my book, a freaking conundrum. That conundrum is, my friend, are we going for Galactic Legends Jabba? Are you going for Galactic Legends Leia? And my friend, you better give me the right answer, because last time we had this discussion about Leviathan versus Jabba, you were hyping up Leviathan so much, I give you 90% credit for coming out like dog. I'm just saying.
You're blaming me for that rollout.
I'm not blaming CG and all the posts that were saying execute profoundly, king of fleas, the top of the meta. It was 100% your fault because you were making an assumption based off all their posts, and you dumped all your crystals into Leviathan. They made you broke for no reason.
I'm happy I didn't spend money. I got a lot of people complaining, like, AP Gains, I spent so much money. I'm like, I just spent resources, so I could eventually recover.
I do. Like, that's a that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, the Leviathan, the worst release in terms of just I don't know. It's like, did they, like, you know, there's sometimes it's like, do they give it to an intern? Like some things, this, it felt like someone gave it to their toddler for a release, and that's like they didn't proofread anything that was going on. I digress, but we do have kind of a similar issue at hand. I'm hoping it doesn't turn out to be like a Leviathan situation, but we have Galactic Legend Leia Organa, and I hear that you're like the greatest roster reviewer of all time. I'm at a point where on the free-to-play, I'm facing this, and I get this question every single day. It's like, I need to kind of think about it. I need to also see how good Leia is. But I'm with the double drops coming next week. I'm probably, you know, I'm probably going to Jedi Luke by the end of the month. And the thing about Jedi Luke now, I think probably you could agree, Jedi Luke's kind of that, he's now that gateway character that leads into at least 3 big things. You got Leia, Jabba, and Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. So the question is, with the new announcement of the Krayt Dragon raid, getting its currencies yanked out of it and going to Endor raid, which, I mean, we're making an assumption that the rewards with the Mark III that we're currently seeing are also moving. They could easily add something new to Mark III and then maybe move the current stuff down. We don't know yet, but the point being is, do people finish up their Jabba? Or do they maybe start chasing after their Galactic Legends later? Looking at my roster now, there's a lot of people in this spot, and they're like, well, because everyone was saying Jabba, 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 Jabba. Now everyone's like, I don't know. Enlighten us. Just tell me what you're thinking. Because, man, I don't know. I'm lost. I have ideas, but I want you to talk first, because I just kind of sprung this conversation on you.
Well, I appreciate the compliment for being the greatest roster of all time. I mean, I've been putting in the hours. I would say. When someone,
I should get a referral fee, because everyone's like, oh, can you review my roster? I'm like, I can't do it. But hey, I know AP Gains, he does it like on a daily basis. Reach out to him, so I should at least get a 90% cut. I'm just.
Oh yeah, I gotta get you an affiliate code. Just on cut you in on
6.9% discount for AP Gain roster reviews.
Oh my goodness. But I mean, so let me open with my biggest pet peeve in farming in the history of the game is so many times, and this has happened for years, even preceding Galactic Legends, people like farm the new hotness, and then if you don't spend money, like, it's gonna take you longer to get it, and then the new hotness comes out, and they're like, AP Gains, I'm 90% done with gas, but these Galactic Legends just came out, should I farm? I'm like, dude, if you've put your heart and soul into something, just finish it. If you grinded Jabba, just finish Jabba. It doesn't matter. Jabba's fantastic. He's probably set. He's probably in the 1 to 3 as far as Galactic Legend viability range for all players. So I would like to open with, if you've already started and committed, just finish. It's not going to be a huge deal. But this is like a microcosm of how this game has been since inception. Like, now it's just kind of at a higher power creep, if that makes sense. Like, there is always the new team, and the new team has some advantage, whether back in the day it was Squad Arena, or it was Fleet Arena, or it was GAC, or whatever throughout the years it's been. The new team is always going to be the best, and CG is always going to incentivize you to have the new team, because they straight up came out with a survey. They're like, what would get you to spend money? They were literally point blank. We're like, are you considering spending real money on this? What would get you to spend real money on this? Like, I think they've tipped their cards a little bit. So for those people who are like always nervous about, you know, keeping up with the latest and greatest, I have a 7 million GP account that's 4 years old or something like that. I can never keep up with the latest and greatest, but I think something that you talked about that is kind of fantastic I don't know if it was on your GAC stream yesterday or a day before, but you were talking about like situating yourself, doing your farms, and then if you have the opportunity to pick up on the latest and greatest because you happen to hoard a little bit or it makes sense, like you farmed a JML, Jedi Knight Luke, and then Jabba comes out and you have half the requirements done, or Leia or something like that. So what I'm doing, and especially with the new tool we're working on to kind of like help people automate their farming, learning, and process and all that stuff, is it's different for everyone. Like if your account has all this stuff and you're in prime position to take advantage of Leia, you should be hammering those double drops and those extra nodes as hard as humanly possible. If you're not there yet, if you're 2 million GP and you're like, AP Gains, should I be farming Leviathan and Leia? I'm like, how are you going to get the Relic 9 to get Leviathan? How are you going to get all of the stuff to get Leia? Maybe it doesn't make sense. So I think the short of it is, it depends.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, because we're kind of
video over. It depends.
That's it. The end of the video, guys. Hope you guys feel enlightened. I mean, the thing is, right now, I mean, you probably caught when they announced the Galactic Legend Leia. They didn't even like they kind of took an inverse route, like unlike Leviathan. They said it's going to be an offensive Galactic Legend. They didn't even say it was going to be a defensive Galactic Legend. Right now, we know. Let's just look at the, I guess, PvP side before we get too caught up in the raid aspect of it. The PvP side of it, assuming, I mean, they might be underselling Leia. She might be great on defense. We have to wait and see. But at least the Jabba right now. The good thing about Jabba, barring Night Sisters, which CG's looking into, and maybe they're going to do some sort of nerf for Night Sisters, or they're immune to plague or something like that.
They've been looking into Night Sisters for like 6 years, dude.
Night Sisters are always a can of worms, man. They cause issues in raids, and then they have to incentivize you to gear up Night Sisters, because there was Paper Zombie at one point. Night Sisters is one of the cheesiest teams, probably one of the hardest teams from the balance. And they opened a can of worms, and I've loved them. It's helped me get my off-meta game going. But beside that, barring the Night Sisters, Jabba is a very great defensive Galactic Legend. I don't think people realize about the Night Sister 2-shot. Jabba, you almost kind of need a Galactic Legend, especially if you're introducing Datacrons and they have like this crazy armor. It's very tough for non-Galactic Legend stuff to beat. So right from the very get-go, when we're looking from that regard, analyzing Jabba, and I'm looking at this from my free-to-play account too, because I got to make the decision. Am I going Leia or Jabba? Because I'm not that deep in the Jabba yet. Don't take it the wrong way, EP.
Now you're speaking my language. Do you have a Jabba filter?
No, that was just me doing a dang good.
That was natural.
That was really good. But yeah, so when I'm looking at this right free-to-play account, I'm trying to see, all right, I'm getting Jedi Knight Luke. Looking at Jabba, I think he might be the better all-around Galactic Legend, offense, defense, all-around durability, and he's needed for Rise of the Empire, and he's also got those specific nodes. But then there's the Crate Dragger raid. I don't know about you, how your guild does in the Crate Dragger, but I feel like, I mean, it could change Endor, but the bare minimums needed to kind of get what you need with the Relic 8s. You really don't need Jabba. When you start getting Jabbas in your guild, that's when you're kind of going above and beyond what you need, and you start getting that big forward progression. But if you're just trying to maintain that steady stream of Relic 8, you really don't need anything crazy for the Crate Dragger raid and Jabba. So I'm kind of taking that assumption and applying it to Galactic Legends Leia, where she's going to be kind of that featured Galactic Legend for the new Endor raid. But it could be in a way where kind of like Jabba, where she's probably going to be the best team, but you might not need her to get whatever the bare minimum threshold reward is going to be. So we're making a lot of steep assumptions what the rewards are going to be and what the scores you're going to need to be. But that's one reason why I'm kind of justifying. I might be just sticking with my plan to get Jabba, because we don't know about Leia. We don't really know how she's going to interact with the raid and what you're going to need. But especially when you look at the other requirements, a lot of people have Jedi Knight Lukes, the Imperial Troopers, a bunch of Rebels and Ewoks. I feel like it's going to be more accessible. So I'm feeling that maybe the average scores relative to each other are going to be probably a bit higher for the Endor than the Crate Dragon raid. So is that making any implication on if someone comes in a roster view session and say, oh, should I go for Leia or Jabba? And they ask about the raid. Are you putting much emphasis on the raid, especially now that they're changing every 8-9 months?
I mean, even with the Crate raid, I never put a ton of emphasis in Jabba for non-PvP. And to tip my cards a little bit, I only care about GAC, to be perfectly honest with you. There's all these
I get you. Yeah,
PvE game modes. Yeah. It's not my cup of tea. The Crate raid was kind of weird because like if you had the teams like the Mandalorians and the R8 Bobas and the decently Gear 12-ish Old Republic, you could do about 1 million, 1.2 million.
Yeah, that's kind of all you needed,
guild across
really.
the board would be fine.
Yeah.
I think you're really spot on here with the new raid is that the requirements are so much easier for this new raid.
Though the next one could be like Exegol raid, and it could require like a Relic 8 Ugnaught or something. So that now it's nice. Yeah. Doesn't mean the next one's gonna be more generous. And so that I want to say this one's generous, but maybe not the next. But anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, go for it.
So I think a lot of players, just through natural progression of having, you know, their standard core 8 teams and their backbones and whatever GL that they might have, like they're gonna have Empire, they're gonna have Rebels, they're gonna have enough teams, and especially I think you need 3 characters per team as opposed to 5. So it's not like you need to have to do the R8 tier. You need to have 5 R8 Tuskens. You could have 3 R8, you know, Piet plus. I don't know, Dart. I don't know what other. I'm not looking at the requirements right now. Jedi Knight Luke. You could have 3 mishmash like R8 characters and get the higher tier there. So, I think you're absolutely spot on. And as far as the Leia versus Jabba, to go back to that, Jabba is a known quantity, and for players who are maybe lower level, I think it's better for them to take known quantities over something speculative. That's like your 5, 6, 7 million GP. You got 2 GLs, you got Executor plus the Profundity, you got a bunch of other teams. You can take a risk that, you know, Leia's going to have some sort of outsized return, because if it's not amazing, you can kind of fall back
into other stuff.
Yeah, so I think this is kind of like a prime opportunity for people who are a little bit higher up to take the risk on Leia, and yeah, you'll have PvE upside if that's something you care about. But you can afford it. And then the people who especially are watching your videos, like, this is a great time to farm Jabba, because he leads into Leia, he leads into JML.
Yeah, that's another
He's
thing,
going to be a fantastic kind of. I talk about this all the time. My stream started going too much of a tangent, but like, in my humble opinion, I think the best second Galactic Legend / like tree fork in the road, whatever you want to call it, has been JML for a long time, because you can go Jedi Knight Luke into JML. Now you can add Cal Kestis. You can go into Leia now. You can go into Jabba now. You can go into Profundity. You can grab a Star Killer to go into Profundity. You can kind of branch out, and I think what CG's done, accidentally or not, is made Leia, Jabba, JML this like triangle, this pyramid scheme of farming. As long as you get into the pyramid scheme, you can kind of move around and do whatever you want. So there's not really a bad choice for players, which I think, I don't know if they did it on purpose, but I think as far as farming is concerned, it's been fantastic for free-to-play players.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I gotta say, the thing I'm really happy about, because we were worried we had this assumption. Sometimes, you know, they break these assumptions where every new Galactic Legend, the requirement's going to be higher and then higher. And then I think they're noticing with like Leviathan and Lord Vader, once you're putting these crazy relic requirements and difficult things to acquire, you know, we get a lot more anal about how good something is. And I think I've been very happy. You know, Jabba's kind of a step down. And then Leia, she's got a couple more marquees, but she's definitely a step down from Lord Vader. So I kind of like that we're kind of backing up a little bit. And the Galactic Legends they are offering, they're mixing well with the other stuff that you have in game. And yeah, so 1000% JML, Jedi Knight Luke are I call it the gateway team now. They're just needed for so many different things in the game. So yeah, so I think right now what we're saying is that, number one, I don't know how much you should put into getting Leia right away, because the thing I have a fear for, like if someone's like me, they're getting Jedi Knight Luke for free soon. It's going to take, what, 6-7 months to get Leia, if that, with single drop characters. By the time you get Leia, well, you're only going to get 1 month of like the raid exclusivity, and then there's going to be a new raid. So I think now with the way they're creating this raid meta, it's going to be hard for people to keep up. So I think as long as you kind of stick with a lot of these different, you know, core things that all these Galactic Legends are sharing, I don't think you can go wrong at the end of the day. But I think if we had to give a vote right now, AP, I don't know if you're willing to put your roster review advice in the line. For me, you know, if someone keeps asking me, all right, am I going for Leia or Jabba? Just based off the fact that we don't really have all the info. No, Leia, we gotta wait till it probably comes out what, September, October. If I was gonna tell someone what to do, I'd say, you know, probably just go for Jabba. Just over Leia right now. All this stuff is basically double drop farmable at this point. You know, and then yeah, you know, if Jabba, you know, if you have to get your Jabba, you go to Leia. You know, it's just I think I hate to say, but some people are gonna have to accept that they're gonna probably always be behind that Galactic Legend requirement that's coming with these new raids. It's gonna be very hard for an average player to keep up, and that's just the way it is. I think we're just past those days. Like I was telling you before, it's like we're past the days where, hey, what's the best GL? Supreme or Kara, and that'll last you for 3 years in the game. Or Jedi Master Command. That's all you need to play this game. It's definitely moving in a different direction, for better, for worse. On the upside, we get a lot of new raids and stuff like that. But on the downside, you're always feeling like you're behind the ball. But you just got to take the game at your own pace at the end of the day. I don't know. Is there any words of wisdom in there that could be extracted? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean... I think the main thing, especially now, and before we started, you made a great point about this before we started recording, is that previously people were expecting like the latest and greatest to kind of last you forever, right? And oftentimes they still do. You can still have long-term value with most things. But with, I mean, especially if you're trying to give advice to, this is where like financial YouTubers get in trouble. They're like, you should invest in crypto. And then FTX goes down like it's like, on a general basis, accounts look so different that oftentimes like what's best for one person is going to be not as good for some other person. But generally speaking, if you pick the teams that are going to give you long-term viability in GAC and they're good elsewhere, you're going to be fine. If you go into the raid and you're like, I'm farming Jabba because he's great in GAC and I'll get raid viability, you're going to have long-term value because he's expletive fantastic, right? If you go in and you farm R8 Tuskens, yes, they might be good in 3v3 and stuff like that, but you're not going to have the long-term value. I think the same thing is going to hold true for every single raid or every single PvE event that ever comes out. If you can justify that they're going to be good in the game mode that you care about forever and ever, you're going to be fine. But the meta is always shifting.
It's always shifting.
A pet peeve of mine is when people like complain about the off meta using these backbone teams, as I like to call them, the Malguses, the Star Killers, those types of teams. That's not off meta anymore. That's just the meta. There are teams in certain cases you can take your Afra and you can kill Jabba. That doesn't mean Jabba's useless. That just means there is an opportunity.
There's a counter for everything. Yeah, it's just a matter of how many and what's the quality of the counters. So that's I think that's an unfeasible point to have. You can't expect something to be unbeatable. It's everything for a well-balanced
except for the
game.
Leviathan. That needs to be unbeatable, CG. That needs to be unbeatable.
You know, we're gonna eat our words, man. I'm telling you. If that rumor is true, they're gonna be like making it a super meta fleet. You're gonna eat your words, man. It's gonna be miserable.
We're gonna be. They need to nerf the Leviathan. It's too good. I can't believe
remember this is a whole different point. But when the Executor came out, Grand Arena, the fleet aspect was just so miserable. Like, it really just came down, did your TIE fighter get enough dodges or not? It was just such a weird coin toss meta with the Malevolence. Like, 50% chance you win fleets, 50% chance you don't. That's a whole different thing. But yeah, I think that's the issue. When you have a fleet that's so expensive, people spend a lot of resources, time, money, whatever it might be, to get a Leviathan. People have these, well, also it doesn't help that they oversold the ship and it's not the best thing out there. Yeah, that's a whole different thing. But otherwise, before we open up that can of worms on Leviathan, maybe a video for another day. If I did this decide right now, I don't like predicting and guessing how good a Galactic Legend's gonna be. Leia could be complete, poo-poo on defense. It's like, I like defensive heavy Galactic Legends. We know Jabba's that way right now, but at the end of the day, like AP was saying, when you look at the requirements for Jabba, and then how they link with Jedi Master Luke and Leia, these are all great things they have for the longevity of the game. Han Solos, you're always gonna want them. Of course, Jedi Luke Skywalker is gonna be solid. C-3POs. The Boba Fett's, you're not going to be able to go wrong. So if you're really worried about the whole raid thing, I think it's just, you got to have that understanding that with the raids moving so much, you're probably, by the time you get the Galactic Legend, you're going to already be behind. The new raid's going to come out. So you need to focus on the here and now, the things that are great. The Galactic Legends have good requirements. And Leia's a stone throw away from Jabba, Jedi Master Luke. So you can't go wrong, but I think I've pretty much made up my mind that I think on the free-to-play account, once they get Jedi Knight Luke, I'm probably going to move here. Just because I don't feel like doing single drop farms for 4 marquee characters. Well, they're all pretty decent across the board, though.
I'm not looking at your roster right now. What GLs do you have? C and SLKR?
C, SLKR, I got Star Killer and Executive. Those are kind of like my big daddy things that I got. So yeah, I think
you already got 2 offensive GLs. I think you definitely need to hammer a defensive GL.
Yeah. So I think Jabba's going to be the way to go. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so that's kind of the game plan. I right now, stone throw away. I have one more piece of gear I need for Captain Han to get the gear 13. Then Lando, I got to get all the right piece. I'm pretty confident double drops coming and the Crate Dragon rewards being helpful. I'll probably have a Jedi Luke by the end of the month, and the journey towards Jabba should begin in September. But I got a couple other things I'm jonesing to kind of pick up. So while I'm starting to farm the shards for Jabba, I do want to bump up the gear on a few things like armor. I do want to bump up some of the gear, my Darth Revan and Treyas. Those are kind of every time when I start a new project and I'm just farming the character shards, gear-wise, I'm kind of like focusing on a couple of key teams I want to bolster up a little bit. So yeah, it's I'm excited to start the process towards Jabba. Now that I have Jedi Luke, it's just like, all right, it's just like you have options. I like having options on which way to go. And right now I just, Jedi Master Luke's not the best defensive GL. And then we have Leia with their selling is not a good defensive GL. I think Jabba just overall in the game, the raid's going away. He's still a top 3 Galactic Legend PvP wise. And yeah, I could use a good defensive Galactic Legend. So Perimeter Kyber, and once you start eking into Kyber, he's not really as defensive heavy anymore, especially when I'm going up against 6 GL rosters and I only got 2. So
dude, I hate it. My last GAC, I go in. My opponent has everything. He's like 11 million. I'm like 6 point something.
Oh god.
I'm like, all right. And he played too, and I lost by like
What bracket are you? This is we're definitely tangenting out here.
I took all of 3v3 off last month, so I dropped down to like Kyber 5. Now I think I'm back in Kyber 4.
Okay, I was gonna say if you fell in the road, we might get matched up one day. Yeah, my last Grand Arena, my opponent had 6 GLs and a bunch of other stuff, and luckily they just didn't show up, and I like lost all my battles against their GLs.
I lost not because he beat me, but because I forgot to place a defensive team, and I gave him like an extra 49 banners, and I lost by like 35. I was so pissed, dude. I was like, it's heartbreaking. All right, we could talk forever about how much we suck at Grand Arena.
Grand Arena matchmaking it's funny. I always get these, and it breaks my heart. People always come like, oh, I'm being matched up with like 10 Galactic Legends. I don't even have one. And I was like, that's just the way it is. And I always tell them, I'll say it again in video form. If you're getting matched with big rosters, that means the game thinks you're a good player, and they think someone of like 3 times the roster is someone competitive on your level. So think about it. Even though the matchmaking sucks, it's also a secret compliment at the same time. Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Money-based matchmaking, man. It's wild and wacky. I need CG to acknowledge that. I need CG to acknowledge that money-based matchmaking is real.
Oh, come on. Yeah, it's... You gotta be. I don't know. I feel like even the most
next
that person
survey,
could. Yeah.
What would get you to spend money to increase your matchmaking?
Oh, dude.
I need a battle pass for better matchmaking.
Oh, dude. Any last words, my friend, before we get going? We're gonna do a video. I completely forgot to say that we're gonna do a video on his channel. We don't even know what it's gonna be. He's just gonna hit record, and he'll probably draw some random pics on the board, and I don't know. Just
that's usually what we do, right? It's just whiteboards.
God. Anyway, say something enlightening, and then we can go.
Stay tuned in early September for Arnold streams, where AP Games might make an appearance.
Woo. September. I actually don't know the lyrics to that song. I just know the sounds they make.
Yeah, I just know that.
Goodbye.